Hello there everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today I want to talk a little bit more about the future of Kirby, specifically the thoughts of a new 2D Kirby game releasing in 2025. Now, a few weeks ago I did a video talking about the future of Kirby and how I think there will be maybe some ports or some remasters coming out next year, as well as talked a little bit about the inevitable Forgotten Land sequel, the next 3D Kirby game. Forgotten Land sold so well, it is the next logical step that HAL would make another 3D Kirby game. In that video, I didn't really talk about the possibility of a new 2D game, but around the time I posted it, some interesting images popped up on 4chan of a potential leak for a new Kirby game, so I wanted to talk about that, but also the possibility of there being a new 2D Kirby game. Does this make sense as the next step in the Kirby franchise? Let's talk about it. All right, so I wanted to hop on here and talk a little bit more about the future of Kirby. You guys seem to enjoy that video, and honestly, I've just been thinking about Kirby a lot recently, reminiscing about playing through Forgotten Land back in 2022. That was so much fun, and yeah, I'm really stoked for the possibility of more Kirby coming in the near future, because we haven't had one since Return to Dreamland Deluxe, which was almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago or so at this point, which isn't really that long, but when it comes to Kirby, it kind of feels like it's been a while since we had a Kirby game on the Switch. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit more today and talk about it specifically through the lens of this new 2D Kirby game that supposedly leaked on 4chan. Now, this happened at the end of July, I want to say, and a couple images came out, so I'll show them in this video. Whether or not you want to believe them, that is up to you. I personally err on the side of fake, but we'll get to that when we get there. So let's take a look at these images. Of course, taking them with a gigantic grain of salt. So they were posted on 4chan at the end of July, and the story behind them is a little inappropriate, but basically the original poster on 4chan, they had shared these images trying to impress a girl, trying to get her to solicit some photos to him. So that right there is a hilarious premise, but in this image we can see Kirby and what I believe is a render that Kirby has never had before, a new space-themed character, as well as a glimpse of the logo, which when translated you can kind of make out does read Kirby and the Celestial Stars, which is, I mean, that certainly sounds like a Kirby name, right? That sounds right on the money of what HAL would name a Kirby game, especially one that's more space-oriented. So that all sounds believable. And then the text here on the main kind of image, the caption here says, "I heard you like Kirby, so I wanted to show you this. Please keep it a secret." And then the little cat in the top left says "fired?" question mark, exclamation point. So like kind of saying like, oh, I'm gonna get fired for you know, showing you this. But that right there, that was the first image, and that is interesting. This image definitely piqued my interest because that character, that original character, does definitely look like a Kirby character. But I've seen a lot of people saying it looks a little too good, like maybe it's AI or something. I don't really think it looks like AI. I think it is just a pretty well-made, convincing fake. There could be some AI elements to this, but we also have Planet Popstar in the background, which I was trying to find. I don't think that lines up with any other pre-existing images of Planet Popstar. Of course, Planet Popstar is going to look similar in a lot of these games. I think there's an asset from Star Allies that lines up the closest, but even then, the shadows do not line up perfectly. So I think that is still like an original version of Planet Popstar there. So this right here, honestly, I would say this is pretty convincing, assuming it isn't AI, but once again, take it with a huge grain of salt. But then they posted another picture of the game seemingly running on the Switch in handheld mode of this new character who, based on this rough Google translation here, their name is Polly, which, I mean, that sounds like a Kirby character, right? And they're saying, "Where is Lou?" in this text box here. But you can kind of see if you zoom in really close on the text box, it looks like there's like a little bit of like a bubble or something above the text. That looks a little weird, but overall, I would say this is a very well-made, convincing fake, if it is indeed fake. I did see some people saying she's a little too similar to Susie from Planet Robobots, which I can see, right? Like, they have a lot of similar, like, colorings and just design philosophies, I would say. Like, these are two pretty similar characters for them to be having in two Kirby games within a decade, but once again, I don't know if that's necessarily enough for me to like think like, oh, this is definitely fake just because of that. But then they posted some details about the game. So this is just a nice little text document here of information from 4chan. Once again, I'm not too sure if this even was actually from the original poster. This could have been from someone else. 4chan is a weird place with weird account systems and all that. So I'm not entirely sure it was even the original person that posted the images, but this list of information has kind of circulated around. Unfortunately, the threads on 4chan are gone, so I can't link to them down below, but this was kind of going around 2 weeks ago, and here's what the image says, right? Already going to lose my job. Title, Kirby and the Celestial Stars. Title not finalized. Platform, new 2D Kirby game for Switch. Uncertain if it will also be released on Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called. Unique features. The IR camera on the Joy-Con apparently can be used in certain parts of the game. Up to 2-player co-op, story mode, and 4-player co-op for minigames. Amiibo support. New copy abilities. Note, one of these is fake because why not? Guess they're just trying to throw us off there. Junk Kirby. The more enemies or blocks you attack, the more junk orbits around Kirby, damaging enemies and obstacles before exploding and losing the power-up. That sounds very interesting. Cool to have like some more gravity theme copy abilities since it's, you know, the Celestial game. It's a space game, right? Rabbit Kirby. Kirby transforms into a bleach white bunny that can dig underground and jump high. Kirby can also use the power-up to throw carrots as a projectile. If I had to guess, I would say this is the fake one of the 3 because that's pretty much what the drill does in Forgotten Land, so it'd be a little weird for them to basically reuse that. And then the third one here, Ice Cream Kirby. Kirby is given a giant ice cream cone that he uses as both a shield and a weapon. When Kirby picks up enemies or blocks with the cone, they turn into scoops of ice cream. Once Kirby collects at least 3 enemies on his ice cream cone, he can eat them to gain a Brain Freeze power-up, which acts like a screen nuke but also removes his current power-up. Alternatively, Kirby can continue just using the ice cream cone as a weapon, with the scoop serving as projectiles. That sounds like a lot of fun. And then finally here, sorry, I thought there was only 3. Cosmic Kirby, the main gimmick of the game. Kirby collects celestial stars in certain levels to transform into Cosmic Kirby. His skin becomes reflective of space, and he can suck up large portions of the level to get past obstacles, very similar to Hypernova and Kirby Triple Deluxe, but now in a 3D environment. That's everything I know. Bye. Now, that last thing is very interesting to me because if we're going with this whole space theme, a Cosmic Kirby sounds very in line with what we've seen from gimmicks in past entries in the series, but also the specification that it would be in a 3D environment is kind of cool because if we get a 2D Kirby game, what if there are segments that are still 3D? I mean, HAL has a lot more experience making a 3D game now. What if we get a 2D Kirby game that does have some 3D sections? I think that would be a very unique gimmick for this game and kind of set it apart from other 2D Kirby games, once again, if it's real. Now, why would this leak? How would this come out like this? How would these images get circulated? If I had to guess, I would say it's because this was supposedly being prepared for the next Nintendo Direct. If this is real, I think it will come out in early 2025. I don't imagine it's that far off. Forgotten Land came out in early 2022. I think it's likely that game was probably finished in late 2021, so this game could be ready, if it is real, for an early 2025 release. And that's what I talked about in the video a couple weeks ago, that I do expect some sort of Kirby game in February, specifically, because we have Donkey Kong in January, we could potentially have this Kirby game in February, and then maybe we have like a Pokemon Legends or Metroid Prime 4 being slotted into that bigger spot in March. That's usually reserved for a lot like bigger games, I would say. Or this could be the March game, actually, because Kirby has released in March quite a few times in the Switch life cycle. So it's possible that someone that should not have had access to this got some marketing materials or something along those lines while Nintendo was preparing the September Direct. Nintendo Directs take a lot of prep time, so maybe someone just got a hold of it and they weren't supposed to while they're kind of preparing the assets for that, for the announcements later this year. And the interesting thing is, if you remember back in 2022, I want to say, we actually had a pretty similar leak for Fire Emblem Engage, where we saw some off-screen screenshots of Alear. I believe they were off-screen, but we saw some screenshots of Alear before the game was announced, and people were arguing over the design of the hair color, the red and blue hair color scheme for Alear in Fire Emblem Engage. So this wouldn't be the first time a Nintendo game has leaked with screenshots this way. But here's what is making me really question whether or not this is real. First of all, they're high quality, but I don't know. I feel like if it were a proper actual Kirby game, it would probably be a little bit more well-made. I'm not sure if that necessarily makes sense. But more importantly, if these were real, I feel like Nintendo would have taken down videos showing them. Now, if you've noticed, I did not have any fear of showing these in this video because I've seen other YouTubers did cover this back when the leaks first popped up at the end of July, and they showed the images in their videos, and those videos have not been taken down. Usually, if there's any type of Nintendo leak, Nintendo will strike the video down and take it down. So that right there is telling me that maybe this is not real. This is just some fan-made kind of project or AI, whatever it is, and Nintendo doesn't care about it because it's fake. I'm trying to think back to 2022. I don't remember if any videos showing the Fire Emblem Engage screenshots. I don't know if those were taken down. If anybody remembers, down in the comments below, I'd love to know. Maybe Nintendo's not going to take down videos showing these screenshots because then that's a tell right there that it is real, right? Like, if Nintendo takes down my video right now, well, that's a great sign that this actually is a real leak. So they probably wouldn't want to do that. So that's it for Kirby and the Celestial Stars. I think it's a cool concept for a game, a more space-themed Kirby game. Sounds right up my alley, and I like the idea of Cosmic Kirby. I like Ice Cream Cone Kirby. I like this new design for this new potential kind of ally character. I like everything we're seeing here. I think the setting especially is just really cool. But if I were to just gut check, say, like whether or not I think this is real, I would lean towards this being fake. I do lean towards this being fake. Now, I don't think it's that out of the realm of possibility that HAL is making a 2D Kirby next. I think it is possible that we could see an end-of-life cycle 2D Kirby game for Switch while they're preparing the next major 3D Kirby game for the Switch 2. I think that's totally possible. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I actually would be really down for that. As much as I want another 3D Kirby game, if HAL wanted to go back to the lab and cook a pristine 2D Kirby game for the final year of Switch, I would totally be down for it, because while I think I'm a little bit more positive on Star Allies than a lot of others, especially in recent years as I replayed it and kind of got a little bit more into it, right? Like I've kind of lightened up on Star Allies. I would love if they went back and made a 2D Kirby game more fitting of the whole idea that Switch era Nintendo has been just pumping out bangers, right? Forgotten Land is my favorite Kirby game. I think Forgotten Land is the best Kirby game, but it's a completely different type of Kirby game. Can we get a 2D Kirby game on Switch that is simply the best 2D Kirby game? I think that would be awesome. But realistically, I've talked a lot about more remasters coming to Switch. I do think it would make more sense for them to slowly eke out some more remakes before doing another new 2D Kirby game. I'm not sure how big HAL is. I'm not too sure if they have the capacity to be doing a 2D game and a 3D game at the same time, like two new games entirely at the same time. And with how well Forgotten Land did versus other 2D Kirby games, I have to imagine that would be the priority, making another 3D Kirby game. Honestly, I know people don't want to hear this, but like, I could even see that being a Switch 1 thing. Like, if Forgotten Land finished development in late 2021, even early 2022, is it possible that they would just have another 3D Kirby game ready for the end of the Switch 1's life cycle? I mean, HAL usually does support Nintendo consoles up until like the very end, right? We saw that with 3DS, we saw that with the Nintendo DS. Could we see a sequel to Forgotten Lands on the Switch before the Switch 2 even comes out? Honestly, I don't think it's that unlikely. Either way, I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think of this leak for Kirby and the Celestial Stars? Do you think this is a real game, or do you think it's just a pretty well-made fake leak for a 2D Kirby game? And would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with HAL going back and making a 2D Kirby game instead of a 3D Kirby game? At least for now. I think we're all kind of anticipating and waiting for that next big 3D Kirby game, especially after how good Forgotten Land was. But I don't know. I'd be okay with a 2D game in between, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch news, reviews, discussions, all of that fun stuff, theories, leaks whenever they pop up. If they're real, if they're fake, we can kind of discuss that as they come, but subscribe here for that. Follow my new channel at It's Amiibo. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames, and until next time, folks, peace.